Namaskar, this is Akhilesh Bhargava again. Welcome to Tidbits on Business and Finance with me. Let us talk about the new RBI Governor, Mr. Shaktikanta Das, who was very hastily appointed by the government after the surprise resignation and exit of Dr. Urjit Patel. If Mr. Subramanian Swamy is to be believed, he is a controversial bureaucrat. But let's keep that aside. He is an IAS officer, a bred to the bone bureaucrat, a Tamil Nadu cadre IAS officer who retired last year. He, at the time of retirement, was the Secretary Department of Economic Affairs and was also the man in charge of the controversial demonetisation program of Mr. Narendra Modi. In fact, he was one of the staunchest defenders of demonetisation, and it is he who oversaw the rollout of the entire demonetisation program of the BJP government. He thus is one of the favourites of the Prime Minister if we have to conjecture. At the moment, before he was appointed the Reserve Bank Governor, he has been a member of the 15th Finance Commission and has been India's Sherpa representative at the G20 nations. So, as we had predicted, a bureaucrat is in charge of the Reserve Bank of India. Mr. Das has the track record of having worked with 3 different finance ministers. He worked with Dr. Manmohan Singh, he worked with Chidambaram, and he has worked with Mr. Arun Jaitley. He is considered to have the ability to fit in any situation, which is understandable when you realize that here is a person who has worked with 3 entirely different finance ministers of a different mindset. And that was evident in his first press conference. In his first press conference, he emphasized the need for autonomy of the RBI, but he said accountability cannot be done away with. So, here is a man trying to do the balancing act. The balancing act at the moment is necessary because Dr. Patel left at a time when he was trying his best to defend the independence autonomy of the Reserve Bank of India. His last ditch attempt finally was the resignation. So, the crisis at the moment has been the debate, the dispute between the Reserve Bank of India, its top bureaucrats if I have to call them, and the government nominees on the board of directors of Reserve Bank of India. The government trying to get onto the turf of the RBI and the RBI defending its autonomy. Now, why does RBI need to defend its autonomy apart from the mandatory statutory requirement to do so? That's because the Reserve Bank of India is a specialized organization in its functioning. Its top man is ideally supposed to be a monetary economist. He is supposed to be one who's got the experience, expertise and skills in managing monetary economics, and he's supposed to be an inflation warrior. That is the desirable qualification of the Reserve Bank of Governor, who is the de facto CEO of the RBI. Mr. Das's predecessors, which is Dr. Urjit Patel and Raghuram Rajan, as also an earlier predecessor, Dr. Rangarajan, were eminent economists in their own right, often with a world-renowned fame. They had deep, proven academic qualifications and expertise in monetary economics as well as in inflation fighting, which also explains the admirable performance of the Reserve Bank of India in the last few years. Mr. Das is a career bureaucrat. He is not a monetary economist. He does not have those qualifications which we think are necessary to be the CEO of an organization like the Reserve Bank of India. A question has already risen. Is Mr. Das fit enough to be the Reserve Bank Governor? In fact, a very senior BJP leader in Gujarat has already brought this matter to the fore, questioning the very ability, the very competence of Mr. Das to be the Reserve Bank Governor and compared him with his illustrious predecessors. If you go by the ideal situation, he doesn't seem to have it. But if you look at the Reserve Bank of India, it is not that every time the Reserve Bank was headed by an eminent economist. Very often, in fact, it is bureaucrats who headed the RBI. Whether it was Dr. Subbarao, whether it was Mr. Reddy, whether it was Bimal Jalan, Mr. R.N. Malhotra and many others, they have been career bureaucrats, IAS officers who were deputed by the government because they were the government men. And in this process, the government over the years has encroached upon the turf of the RBI. So, it's not necessarily that the Reserve Bank has had to have an economist, and these governors who were appointed in the past did a good job. They evolved very soon. They learned their job very quickly, and they also managed to defend the autonomy of the RBI. A person like Dr. Subbarao, he changed entirely when he came to the Reserve Bank. He looked to be a man who was born to defend the Reserve Bank. The question is whether Mr. Das will be able to do that, because he comes under a very different political dispensation. If observers are to be believed, they think it's going to be a difficult task for Mr. Das to protect the autonomy of RBI, to stop the encroachment of the government nominees in its functioning, which it has been desperately trying to do. If he doesn't succeed, you can be sure the government has succeeded in undermining the authority and autonomy of the Reserve Bank of India. So what is this all about? It is about experience versus expertise. Mr. Das has the experience as a bureaucrat. He does not have the expertise of being a central banker, and a central banker needs to have the expertise. The question is whether he would learn it on the job so quickly such as to acquire the expertise, and the other question is, will he be able to understand the prerequisite requirement to have this expertise and behave and be capable of being what we think is an ideal RBI governor. So, while in the past many bureaucrats have been RBI governors, most of them managed to learn the monetary economics and most of them managed to protect the autonomy of the RBI. Question is whether Mr. Das will acquire the expertise or will he just go by his experience and let that experience have the government take control of the RBI. That would not be good for India. We hope that he evolves on the job and we hope that he learns. But let me tell you, just because he may have worked under 3 finance ministers does not mean he's got the expertise to run the Reserve Bank of India as a central bank governor. If you have been an airline crew for many years, it doesn't mean you got the ability to now be the pilot. If you have been an assistant to a doctor, it doesn't mean even if you were an assistant for many years, you have the ability to be the doctor himself. On-the-job learning will be crucial for Mr. Das and he should not ignore it. If he does, you can be sure the government has encroached the turf of RBI very successfully. And for him to learn on the job, RBI has a deep talent base. It is brimming with experts with a proven track record. All he has to do is depend on them. And if he does that, he would have balance, autonomy and accountability, as he's saying. If he has not done that, you can be sure autonomy will be sacrificed and it will be only accountability, which means the RBI would become even more subservient to the government of India. So let's see how this battle, how this challenge between balancing expertise and experience with the new RBI governor takes off. This is Akhilesh Bhargava signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.